What's going on, guys? Kevin or the Sports Geek here, and in this video I'm going to go over my Sports Geek Pro model over at FantasyLabs for NFL Week 13, and I'm going to be taking a look at the tight end position. So as is the case with a lot of the positions in my Sports Geek Pro model, we get some value players that rise to the top. It's great for finding some value plays if that's what you need, but sometimes I'll be avoiding these top-rated players if I don't think that the usage is going to be there, and that's pretty much the case here with the top two guys. Although if I was doing multiple lineups, I would take a look at these guys just to save some money. Hunter Henry's 2,900. The only reason why I don't like him too much is because of his usage right now. He's only getting, he's gotten 2 and 3 targets over the last couple games. If you look back to before he sat out with an injury, he had 4 and 3 targets. So with Gates out, he was getting a lot of usage. But now with Gates back healthy, he's not getting much. But the thing is, he does get targeted in the red zone, and he seems to catch pretty much everything thrown at him. So he might be a decent GPP play. He could get 2 touchdowns, even if he had like 3 or 4 targets. Could turn 2 of those into a touchdown and be a really good punt play at tight end. But definitely a risky play, so not one that I'll be on too much. But if I was doing multiple lineups, maybe in the lower priced GPPs, I would throw him in there in a couple lineups. Next up, Jermaine Gresham, same thing. He's 2,500, very cheap. His usage was up big time last week, but that was probably because they were trailing for most of the game. He saw 10 targets, 5 catches, only 35 yards, but he did get the touchdown. He's got a touchdown in 2 straight games. But if you look at his game log, Arizona doesn't really throw the ball to their tight ends too much. So his upside, I think, is kind of limited. But for 2,500, he could have another game. What did he get last week? 14.5. So he could have a game like that against Washington, who aren't good against tight ends. So he's someone I would maybe throw in if I needed a min-price tight end. Maybe I would throw him in a couple lineups. But not someone I love. The next guy here that's ranking 3rd in the model is someone that I do really like this week. It's Travis Kelce in Atlanta. This game's expected to be pretty high scoring. Atlanta is not great against tight ends. Kelce is getting a ton of usage. The one thing to point out here is that Macklin is back for KC, but I don't expect him to be too much of a factor. I think Kelce will still get targets. They've been doing well targeting Kelce quite a bit here. You can see over the last 5 games, minimum of 6 targets. And over that span, the minimum DraftKings points he's put up is 8, and he's had a couple games. He's had 3 games over 20. So I think he's a really good play at 4,700. Another play here that's a little more expensive that I also like is Jimmy Graham, 5,500. So I think, I don't know who I like better here, Kelce or Graham. I think I see Kelce's projected for a little higher points and he costs less. So maybe I'll go towards Kelce, but I also really like Jimmy Graham. Carolina hasn't been good against tight ends. They haven't been good through the air at all. I think Seattle will have a pretty decent game. I think they're favored by about 7 points or 6.5 points. And Jimmy Graham has been targeted quite a bit lately. He's been playing well at home, especially. You can see his DraftKings points. He's put up 3 games over 20, 1 game with 33 DraftKings points. Over his last 4 games, he's had a minimum of 8 DraftKings points. So he's someone who can put up some big scores. He is getting pretty pricey at 5,500, but I do think the spot is good for him. So I think Jimmy Graham will be in quite a few of my lineups. We've got some more value plays popping up here. So these are interesting guys to maybe throw in like one lineup or something, like an Austin Hooper. You could throw him in. He hasn't been doing much lately, but he has a couple games with 11, 13 DraftKings points. He's only 2,600. So there's some value tight ends to look at and consider in a couple lineups. I think most of them are pretty risky. But down here, we've got 2 tight ends that I'm trying to decide between. Coby, Fleener, and Josh Hill. I think this game, obviously, a lot of people think it's going to be high scoring with the total set at around, I think it's 53 points currently. This is supposed to be a bit of a shootout, and Detroit isn't great against tight ends. The trend has kind of stopped a little bit, but they were giving up touchdowns like crazy to tight ends at the start of the year. And I think this is a good spot for New Orleans to get tight end or a touchdown out of their tight end position. But Josh Hill and Coby Fleener have been kind of splitting times and splitting targets. Last week was Josh Hill's best game. He got 6 targets, caught all 6 passes for 74 yards, and he was running a lot of routes in that game. Coby Fleener last game he had 4 targets, 4 catches for 59 yards. So they kind of split the time there. Looks like they might be splitting the targets. So it's tough to pick, but I might go with one of these guys in a couple lineups just because they're both pretty cheap and this game's expected to be high scoring. I think it should be a bit of a shootout. and Drew Brees likes to throw to tight end. So I might go with Josh Hill. I might just kind of throw them both in a couple lineups. I like Josh Hill at the min price. His projection here is 4.6, but if you look at his last game, it's kind of risky just going off one game sample since his other games have been 0, 0, 8, 1, 1. But going off his last game, 13 DraftKings points, he could have a game like that or maybe even better against Detroit. So I think he is kind of a good punt play at tight end, but definitely someone who's risky. You wouldn't want to use him too much in your GPP lineups, and I wouldn't consider him in cash. So that's kind of my thoughts on tight end. I guess I'll scroll down a little bit here and see what we've got going on. Eric Ebron is someone I'll be looking at. I wanted to mention, where's Vernon Davis here? So Vernon Davis doesn't have the best matchup against Arizona. Arizona has been great against tight ends, but Kirk Cousins throws to tight ends a ton, and Jordan Reed is expected to be out. That's something to watch, but Vernon Davis was someone I really liked. I haven't heard too many people talk about him, probably because of Jordan Reed being questionable at this point. But if he's out, Vernon Davis I think is a good play. He's put up a lot of points so far this year, being the second tight end in Washington, and if he takes over the number 1 role, I expect him to have a good game. So his projection here with Jordan Reed expected to be out is at 11.2, and he's just 3,300. So if you compare that to these guys at the top here, Hunter Henry, who's $400 cheaper and projected at 7.4. I think we've got a good spot there with Vernon Davis. He is in a tough matchup, but I think he's going to get enough targets that he should have a pretty good game if Jordan Reed's out. So that's another guy I like. But overall, I think I'll try to fit in someone like a Kelce at 4,700, just with the crazy usage he's been getting lately and the DraftKings points he's put up, 26. He's capable of putting up 20 DraftKings points for you, and that can help you win a GPP. So that's someone I'll really be targeting. Him and Jimmy Graham, I think, are my 2 favorite higher-priced tight ends this week. So that's a look at the Sports Geek model for the tight end position. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, and I'll try to do it weekly from here on out for the rest of the season. Good luck in your contest this week. Hope you guys make some money. Cheers.